I never thought betrayal could feel this quiet, like a smile that cuts deeper than words. It happened on my sister's graduation day, the moment that still replays in my head like a cruel joke. Samantha, the golden child, stood under the streamers and applause while Dad dangled a set of car keys in front of her. "You're going to shine bright," he said, his voice booming with pride. She beamed, clutching the keys to a brand new car like she'd earned it. Then, my turn came. A small, light box was placed in my hands. I opened it. Inside was a stack of cleaning supplies. Sponges, dish soap, paper towels. Mom's smile widened, syrupy sweet. "Now you can keep the house tidy, Anna." My sister's laughter filled the room, piercing me. That was the moment I realized I wasn't family. I was the maid. And that night I decided to leave. The party felt like it was built for her, every detail screaming Samantha's name. Balloons in her favorite colors, pink and silver, floated in clusters along the living room walls. A massive banner stretched across the dining area. "Congratulations, Samantha." Guests clapped as she entered, beaming, her cap still tilted proudly on her head. Mom fussed over her gown, Dad snapped pictures from every angle, and relatives swarmed in with hugs and compliments. I stood at the edge of it all, half visible, half forgotten. Nobody asked how I was doing or what I had accomplished. It wasn't my graduation, after all. Still, I had hoped for at least a nod of recognition, something to show that my years of sacrifice hadn't been invisible. Instead, I watched my parents' smiles grow wider every time Samantha laughed. Dad made a toast, his voice full of pride. "To Samantha," he said, raising his glass high. "She's going to do great things, she's destined to shine." The room erupted in cheers, and I clapped along weakly, the sound hollow even to my own ears. Inside, I felt small. For years, I had been the one cooking dinners when Mom worked late, the one scrubbing floors while Samantha scrolled through her phone, the one patching holes when money got tight. But no one saw that labor. None of it was worth balloons, banners, or champagne. As Samantha posed with her new car parked outside, shiny, red, and impossible to miss, I caught my reflection in the window. Tired eyes, a forced smile. My hands clenched at my sides. I wasn't jealous of the car itself. I was jealous of what it symbolized. Love, pride, validation, all the things I had never been given. When Mom waved me over for a photo, I obeyed. I stood next to Samantha as she jingled her car keys for the camera, her grin wide and mocking. The flash went off, and in that frozen image, I looked like an outsider in my own family. I told myself to hold it together, at least until the gifts were done. But deep down, I already knew something inside me had started to break. When the time for gifts finally came, the whole room buzzed with anticipation. Everyone already knew Samantha's big surprise. Dad hadn't been able to keep it a secret. He practically glowed as he jingled the keys in his hand, building up the moment like it was the climax of a movie. "Samantha," Dad said, his chest puffed with pride. "This is just the beginning. You've worked so hard, and you deserve this." He pressed the keys into her palm. She squealed, bouncing on her toes, and everyone clapped as she dashed outside. Seconds later, we all heard her gasp, followed by the sound of car doors unlocking. Through the window, I saw her throw her arms around the shiny red car, her reflection glittering in the polished paint. The crowd rushed outside to admire it, cameras flashing, voices rising with praise. Dad posed with her, one arm around her shoulders, while Mom wiped away tears of joy. I stayed back, holding my breath, pretending to smile. I wanted to be happy for her, I really did. But I couldn't shake the weight pressing down on my chest. Then Mom turned to me. "Your turn, Anna," she said brightly, reaching for a small box. It was light, too light. My heart sank before I even opened it. Still, I peeled back the wrapping, my hands trembling. Inside was a neatly stacked pile of cleaning supplies, sponges, dish soap, paper towels, even a bottle of glass cleaner. For a moment, the room went quiet. I stared at the box, my mind blank. Surely, this was a joke, a prank, something. But then Mom smiled, her tone syrupy and deliberate. "Now you can keep the house tidy, Anna. We know how responsible you are." Samantha's laugh broke the silence. It was sharp, cutting, the kind of laugh meant to humiliate. Perfect for you, she smirked, her eyes glinting with mockery. Heat rushed to my face. My throat tightened as Dad chuckled and added, "Well, at least you'll always be useful around here." Useful. That was all I was to them. The room blurred. The applause, the chatter, Samantha's gloating grin, it all crashed into one sharp realization. I was never going to be celebrated, only used. I forced a smile, but my hands shook as I closed the box. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. In that moment, I wasn't just hurt, I was done. I couldn't breathe. The laughter, the flashes of the camera, Samantha twirling her new car keys, it all pressed down on me like a weight I couldn't lift. My fingers clenched the box of cleaning supplies until the cardboard bent under the pressure. I forced myself to stay seated, nodding and smiling as if the humiliation hadn't cut straight through me. But inside, something snapped. I set the box down carefully on the coffee table, almost too carefully, as though it were something fragile. My hands trembled, and I knew if I stayed another second, I'd break in front of everyone. I stood up. "Where are you going, Anna?" Mom's voice was sweet, as though she hadn't just handed me a chore list disguised as a gift. "Out," I muttered. My voice was low, colder than I'd ever spoken to her. Dad frowned. "Don't be ungrateful. It's a practical gift. You should appreciate it." Ungrateful. The words sliced through me. My chest burned, my throat closing around everything I wanted to scream. Instead, I grabbed my bag from the hallway, shoved in a few essentials, and headed toward the door. Behind me, I could hear whispers ripple through the relatives. Samantha snickered. "Wow, can't even take a joke." A joke? My entire childhood had been one long punchline at my expense. "Anna," Mom called again, her voice sharper this time. "You're overreacting. Sit down and stop making a scene." I froze at the doorway. My hand pressed against the cool metal of the doorknob. For a split second, I thought about turning back, about swallowing the anger like I always had. But then I saw Samantha's reflection in the window, her smug grin as she tapped her new car keys against her palm. That was it. "I'm done," I said, my voice steady for the first time all night. And with that, I opened the door and stepped out into the cool night air. The muffled sounds of the party followed me down the driveway. The laughter, the chatter, the clinking of glasses, like a celebration I was never meant to belong to. My feet carried me faster than I expected, my pulse racing with every step away from that house. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't care. All I knew was that staying meant drowning, and leaving, even if it meant walking into uncertainty, was the only way to breathe again. For the first time in years, the night felt quiet. Empty, yes, but free. I tightened my grip on my bag and kept walking. I didn't stop walking until my legs ached and my chest heaved with every breath. The streets were quiet, dimly lit, and unfamiliar. My phone buzzed with missed calls, but I ignored them, shoving it deeper into my pocket. Finally, when the adrenaline began to fade, I pulled out my phone and scrolled to the one person I knew would understand, Mark. He picked up on the second ring. "Anna? Are you okay?" His voice was sharp, concerned. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "Can I come over?" "Of course." Doors unlocked. By the time I reached his small apartment, my shoulders had slumped with exhaustion. He opened the door before I could knock, and the moment I saw his face concerned, steady, I felt the dam inside me crack. I dropped my bag on the floor and sank into his couch. For a moment, I couldn't speak. My hands shook as I pulled the words together. "They gave her a car," I whispered. "A brand new car. And me? Cleaning supplies?" Mark's jaw tightened. "You're kidding." I let out a bitter laugh. "I wish I was." Mom smiled like it was some thoughtful gift. "Dad told me I should be grateful." Samantha laughed in my face. "I couldn't." My voice cracked. "I couldn't stay there." Mark sat beside me, silent for a long moment. His silence wasn't judgmental, it was heavy, like he was trying to absorb every word. "You've carried that family for years," he said finally. "Cooking, cleaning, running errands, holding everything together. And they hand you a box of sponges?" I nodded, biting my lip to stop it from trembling. "You don't deserve that," he said firmly. "You've been treated like their maid, not their daughter." The truth in his words cut deeper than the humiliation itself. Tears I'd been holding back spilled down my cheeks. "I don't know what to do, Mark. They've always expected me to take it, to clean up after them, to stay quiet. And I have. But tonight I just couldn't anymore. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Then don't. Don't go back. You don't owe them your life, Anna. Get a job, find your own place. You've already proven you can survive on your own. You don't need them. The thought hit me like a wave, terrifying, yet liberating. Leave for good. Not just storm out, not just spend the night away. Really leave. For a moment, I pictured it. My own apartment, my own money, no more guilt hanging over my head. No more being the family's shadow. I wiped my face with the back of my sleeve and whispered, "Maybe you're right." Mark gave me a small, encouraging smile. "Not maybe. You are stronger than they ever let you believe. It's time you prove it to yourself." For the first time all night, I felt a flicker of hope. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the blinds of Mark's apartment, and for the first time in years, I woke up without the weight of chores waiting for me. No one yelling my name from the kitchen. No passive-aggressive sighs if I dared to sleep in. Just silence. But with that silence came the terrifying question, what now? I sat at Mark's table with a mug of coffee he'd shoved into my hands. My phone was still buzzing with missed calls and unread messages, but I ignored them. Instead, I opened my laptop and searched for jobs. It wasn't glamorous. Most listings were entry-level positions, retail, front desk, food service. But I didn't care. I wasn't looking for prestige, I was looking for freedom. By the end of the week, I'd landed a part-time job at a small bookstore downtown. It didn't pay much, but the moment I held that first paycheck, my chest swelled with pride. It was mine. Not money funneled through my parents. Not gas money they grudgingly handed me with a list of errands attached. Mine. I used it to put down a deposit on a tiny studio apartment. The place was old, with peeling paint and a faucet that leaked if I didn't twist it just right. But when I unlocked the door and stepped inside, it felt like stepping into my own skin for the first time. The first night, I sat cross-legged on the floor with takeout and looked around at the bare walls. There was no furniture, no decorations, just me, my bag, and a cardboard box I'd picked up from the grocery store. And yet, I'd never felt richer. The days blurred into a rhythm. Work at the bookstore by day, scrolling job boards by night. On weekends, I cleaned apartments for extra cash. It was ironic still cleaning, but this time, for myself, for survival. Not because I was forced into it. Every dollar saved felt like a victory. There were nights when I collapsed on the mattress I'd dragged into the corner, my muscles aching, my hands raw. Sometimes I wondered if I'd made a mistake, if maybe going back would be easier. But then I'd remember the look on Samantha's face as she jingled those car keys, the smugness in her laugh as she watched me unwrap cleaning supplies. That memory was enough to push me through exhaustion. Slowly, my bank account grew. Not by much, but enough to cover rent and groceries without panicking at every transaction. Enough to buy a secondhand couch. Enough to start breathing again. And with each small step, I felt it. Independence. The kind that tasted like freedom, sharp and exhilarating. One evening, as I balanced receipts at the bookstore counter, Mark dropped by. He leaned against the register, watching me with a grin. "You look different," he said. "Different how?" I asked, raising a brow. "Like you finally know what it feels like to own your life." For the first time, I smiled without forcing it. He was right, I did. At first, the silence from my family felt like a blessing. No one ordering me around, no one guilt-tripping me, no one making me feel small. For weeks, I focused on my routines. Work, saving money, fixing up my tiny apartment piece by piece. My world was quiet, predictable, and finally mine. Then, the messages started. The first text was from Mom. "Hi, Anna. How's your new place? I hope you're eating well. We miss you here." I stared at the words for a long time, unsure if I should even reply. It felt staged, like something she rehearsed. Still, I typed back, "I'm fine, busy with work." Short, neutral. A few days later, another text came. "Your dad and I are so proud of you. We knew you'd land on your feet. We're here for you, always." I almost laughed. Proud of me? These were the same people who had treated me like a household maid, who had handed me dish soap wrapped in shiny paper and called it a gift. Now suddenly, they were supportive? I didn't buy it. Then Samantha reached out. Hey sis, hope you're good. Things are kinda crazy here. How's work going? Her attempt at being casual was almost comical. Samantha had never cared about my life, never asked about my day unless it affected hers. I replied the same way I had with Mom. Polite, distant, vague. But the messages kept coming. Slowly, the tone shifted. Mom called one evening. Her voice was unusually soft, almost sweet. Anna, honey, we were wondering if you could come by sometime. The house feels empty without you. I hesitated. My chest tightened at her words, but deep down I knew what was coming. I kept my tone even. I don't think that's a good idea right now. I've got a lot going on. She sighed, then after a pause added, well, things have been a little tough here. With your sister's car payments and the bills piling up, it's been hard on us. We could really use your help, just for a while. There it was. The real reason. My grip on the phone tightened. Mom, I left because I was tired of being used. I'm not coming back to fix things. She tried again, her voice trembling. Please, Anna, you don't understand. We're drowning. Samantha's car, it was supposed to be an investment in her future. Your dad and I thought. I cut her off. You thought wrong. You made that choice? Don't drag me into it now. The silence on the other end was heavy, broken only by her uneven breathing. We're your family, she whispered, her words almost a plea. Family doesn't treat me like a servant, I said flatly. Family doesn't ignore me until they need something. I hung up before she could answer. My hands were shaking, but not from guilt, from anger, from relief. Over the next weeks, the calls multiplied. Dad tried the stern approach, reminding me of sacrifices they'd made. Samantha sent teary emojis and long paragraphs about how things were harder than I could imagine. Mom swung between begging and scolding, depending on the day. But I didn't cave. Every call, every message only confirmed what I already knew. They didn't want me. They wanted what I could give. And this time, I wasn't going to give them anything. The night it all came to a head, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. First Mom, then Dad, then Samantha, all back-to-back calls. I ignored them until my screen lit up again with Mom. Against my better judgment, I answered. Anna, she said breathlessly, like she'd been crying. Please, we need you. Your father's so stressed. Samantha's overwhelmed, everything's falling apart. You can't just abandon us like this. The words hit me like stones. I clenched my jaw. Abandon you? I gave that family everything for years. And what did I get? Dish soap and paper towels wrapped up as a present. That was my worth to you. She gasped. It wasn't like that. Yes, it was. My voice shook, but I didn't stop. All those years I scrubbed floors, cooked meals, picked up the pieces while Samantha sat with her phone or went shopping. You didn't care if I was tired, if I was drowning, you just piled more on. And then, at her graduation, you humiliated me in front of everyone. You made it clear. I'm not your daughter, I'm your maid. Her silence was deafening. Then Dad's voice came on the line, stern but cracked at the edges. You're being dramatic. We worked hard for this family. We've made sacrifices for you. Sacrifices? I laughed bitterly. You took out loans for a car you couldn't afford. You called it an investment in Samantha's future. Meanwhile, I was the one actually investing my time, my labor, my life. But none of that counted, did it? Dad's tone hardened. Watch your mouth, young lady. We're still your parents. You owe us respect. Respect? The word snapped something inside me. Respect is earned, not demanded. You never respected me. You used me. And now you expect me to come running because your poor golden child can't handle her car payments? In the background, I heard Samantha's voice. Anna, stop being so selfish. You've always been jealous. Just admit it, you can't stand that I get more attention. Head is a bradgy. My blood boiled. Jealous? Samantha, I don't care about your stupid car. I care about the fact that you laugh every time they put me down. You sit back and watch while I get scraps, and you still think you're the victim. She scoffed. At least I don't run away from my family when things get tough. I nearly screamed into the phone. Tough? You don't know tough. Tough is raising yourself while your parents worship the ground your sister walks on. Tough is being told to be grateful for cleaning supplies, while the golden child gets a brand new car. You have no idea what tough looks like. Mom broke in, her voice trembling. "Anna, please. We're begging you. Come home. We can start over. We'll do better." My throat tightened. For a split second, guilt clawed at me. They sounded desperate, broken. A part of me wanted to believe they meant it. But then I remembered standing in that living room, Samantha laughing while I held that box of sponges. I remembered every chore, every dismissal, every time I was told I wasn't enough. "No," I said firmly, my voice steady now. "You don't get to break me for years and then beg when it's convenient. I am not your safety net. I am not your servant. I am your daughter, and you failed me. I won't go back." The line went silent. I could hear faint sobs, angry whispers, the chaos of a family unraveling. And for once, it wasn't my responsibility to fix it. I hung up. My hands shook, not with fear this time, but release. My chest heaved as if I'd been carrying a weight for years, and finally set it down. That night, I lay awake in my tiny apartment, guilt and relief wrestling inside me. Part of me felt cruel. Part of me felt free. But above all, I felt something I'd never felt in that house. Control over my own life. The days after that phone call were eerily quiet. No buzzing phone, no late-night guilt trips. For the first time since I'd left home, my life felt still, like a storm had finally passed. I threw myself into work, saved every dollar I could, and kept building a life that belonged only to me. Weeks turned into months. My apartment slowly transformed. Secondhand furniture filled the empty spaces. Framed photos of friends replaced the blank walls, and the silence I once found terrifying began to feel comforting. This was my space, my sanctuary. Then, one evening, my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Anna?" It was Dad. His voice sounded thinner, older, like life had chipped away at the authority he once wielded so easily. "Your mom and we've been talking. We know we messed up. We're sorry. Truly sorry." For a moment, I couldn't speak. The word sorry was one I had longed to hear for years, but now it felt too late, like a bandage slapped on after the wound had already scarred. He continued, "We don't want you to think we only care when we need something. We want our family back. We want you back." A lump formed in my throat. I wanted to believe him. A part of me ached too, but the memories were louder, the years of being ignored, minimized, and treated as less. "I can't," I said softly but firmly. "Not now. Maybe not ever." There was silence on the line. Then he whispered, "I understand. But if you ever change your mind, we'll be here." When the call ended, I sat in the quiet of my apartment, staring at the walls I had built for myself. My heart was heavy, but my chest felt lighter than it had in years. A year passed. My little side hustles grew into something bigger. I no longer lived paycheck to paycheck. I was stable, independent, proud. My family tried contacting me a few more times, sometimes pleading, sometimes angry, but I never went back. I couldn't, because for the first time in my life, I was more than the family's maid. I was Anna, my own person, with my own future. Still, late at night, guilt sometimes crept in like a shadow. I wondered if cutting ties made me heartless, if walking away from blood was something I'd regret forever. But then I'd remember that day, standing in front of everyone, holding a box of cleaning supplies while my sister laughed, and the guilt would quiet. I don't know if forgiveness will ever be possible. I don't know if I even want it. So here I am, telling my story. Maybe looking for clarity, maybe looking for someone to tell me I'm not wrong. What do you think? Was I cruel for refusing to go back? Or was it the only way to finally set myself free?